Coming at you live, episode number 112 of the Two Armenian Men podcast. Let's go, baby. Shant, how you feeling tonight, big guy?
Feeling really good, man. Been getting not a lot, but some clash from our previous two podcasts. Well, our previous podcast with Alicia, the one before, because I posted a couple of stuff from our podcast and getting a lot of backlash on that.
Alicia did a phenomenal job discussing the whole, discussing a bunch of different topics. We got to have her back on. She was a really, really good guest. Actually, like, it would be an honor to have you back on, Alicia. So, yeah, what's the deal though? Have you been defending any sides, or have you just been observing, just quietly spectating?
Just clapping back for the most part.
You've been clapping back. Ooh, so you've been defending Alicia?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure she'd be happy to hear that. Even after she took shots at me on the on the pod.
Yeah.
Started taking shots at my Ibiza vacations and Instagram pictures and shit.
No, but so what's been up with you, man?
It's been an interesting weekend, man. It was a very, very New England-y Sunday yesterday, man. You'd appreciate this. It was like fall foliage, nice 65-degree weather, pumpkins and shit. All the girls wearing like plaid and leggings. It was just really, really typical New England bullshit.
Yeah.
You know? It was nice. It was nice to be out and about. I got a new camera for my YouTube stuff. Really, really convenient.
How are you liking this new shift? You posted a couple of videos so far with your new channel. It's been a very, very interesting reaction from a lot of people. I got a bunch of messages from people that I would never expect. Okay.
That are also dealing with this sort of shit, and they were like, I think a lot of people were just surprised that I do what I do so well, and I've been hiding this, but I haven't been really hiding it. I just haven't talked about it. If anybody was openly asking me questions about mental health stuff, I'd full blown come out and tell them, I have anxiety issues. I didn't know I had OCD up until like 6 months to a year ago. I had no clue. But body dysmorphia is very much an OCD issue. It's a hyperfixation. It's an obsession. And how you usually treat obsession, I don't need to go fucking minute clinic on you right now, but how you usually deal with obsessions is by doing compulsions. So body dysmorphia is a major form of OCD. So, like, why wouldn't I use everything that I've learned this past year to sort of,
Do you feel you have it figured out, or are you still like going?
Not so much that I have it figured out, but I think I have it figured out to a certain degree that I'm making a faster recovery than a lot of other people have with OCD.
Are you thinking of like trying to like get better, learn more about this, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely something that holds my attention a lot longer than, a lot of other things that people, focus on generally. Like, put it this way, right now, the main focus of my attention has been this and bodybuilding for like the last, like, I'd say solid part of the last year.
Wow.
Yeah, man, my interests have drastically changed over the last couple of years. I think it's been very, very obvious in my content. My content has like suffered so much for the car stuff, is just because there's no interest. I lost my interest in the whole fucking business.
That's crazy, man. Because since I've known you, that's all you've cared about.
No. Don't get me wrong. I still love cars. I just don't like this.
Okay.
this conversation, and the conversation can't even be had anymore.
Yeah.
You can't negotiate this. I don't even
You're
know when we're going to be able to do that.
useless. Yeah, you're useless.
Literally rendered useless. Like they called me and they said, "Buddy, you're fired. You're nobody now." Um,
And why didn't you want to go a different route in the car sector, like tours, updates, like new
yeah,
models?
I know that my last straw was reviews, but my problem is, Shant, is because of this whole BDD OCD thing. I was having a lot of trouble paying attention to anything. I think the only thing that I could actually pay attention to right now is the world of um, bettering myself with like mental and physical health. I've been putting a lot of focus and emphasis on those two things
Mm,
for the greater part of this last like 3 years, between like quitting smoking and like being pretty active, sleeping a lot more, sleeping on a regular schedule, setting goals, really nailing down my life's purpose. Actually, this is funny. I'm not talking to you. I haven't talked to you about this, but
yeah,
I'll talk
no.
candidly. Um, for a little while, I didn't want to do anything serious with my life because I thought that I would probably die a lot sooner
Mm-hmm.
than than a lot of other people. Like I was worried about getting married because I'm like, what's the point? Like my wife's gonna be dealing with she's gonna be dealing with a what's it called, widow sort of situation very early on. What's the point in having kids? They're not gonna have a dad after like 50.
Wow, that's some heavy shit.
Yeah, because it's like, dude, you're a smoker. You're not in great shape. You're like, what's your lifespan gonna be like anyway? So it's like, why do anything serious?
So, what was that shift like? Because some people say they have a moment. Some people are at their bottom, and they just that's when they snap out of. Like, what was the one thing? Some people deal with a loss, and it snaps them. Just what was it for you that you're like, you know what? That's I'm done with that. New me coming up.
So I realized after a really really bad anxiety episode that I wasn't actually living. Like this was not it anymore. I just like this was not actually living. It was just fearing life because of all the different anxiety and all the different um different scenarios that I was creating in my mind about, you know, okay, I'm going to die earlier, or yeah, I'm pretty much paralyzed by an anxiety issue that I can't do anything fun anymore. I don't want to travel anymore because I'm worried about my anxiety. I just realized shit needed to change.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, the health world is such a deep rabbit hole to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Like between like me quitting smoking, me running, like dude, I spent so much time trying to figure out which running shoe is the best. Like, do I get something that has like a pronation, or like do I need it to get it at a slight like
Yeah.
crookedness on the
Yeah.
side to support
Yeah.
yogurt for probiotic? Like I make my own yogurt now, bro. It's the weirdest shit. Like I do the weirdest health bullshit now. And it actually did fulfill that purpose. I feel like I actually am living now. I'm doing shit with a lot less fear. But
Wow.
the more I'm living, the more I'm uncovering a lot of other just hidden shit. Like it just keeps on getting uncovered, unraveled. Like I found out after I got a Porsche that I had really, really bad, deep seated guilt issues about having that. Like, I
Hmm.
shouldn't have it. Who the hell am I to have something like this? And like, I felt guilty claiming that as like my property. Like, I went out into the parking lot and they're like, "Oh, is that your Porsche?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a new 911. It's nothing crazy. Yeah, it's nice, huh? Love that car." Like I couldn't actually claim anything as being mine anymore.
Huh.
Like who am I? Who am I to deserve something like that?
So, oh wow, you had the hang on, you had the
Yeah.
911.
Yeah.
I'm just on Porsche looking at the prices. I'm like, what the fuck?
You don't want to know what they're actually going for over the prices,
I
like
didn't I
over
didn't think
MSRP.
it's that serious. I thought it was just like, all right, okay, that makes sense. So I was just googling Porsche 911, and he had a new one at the time. I thought they were like 70, 80.
They start at like 105.
I know.
It was so sick, man. I
That's
can't
why I
wait
was
to
like,
have one
yeah, I was
back.
like, it's cute, like 70, 80. It's nice.
The new
Uh,
M4 starting at 70, 80. So
wow.
anyway,
Sick car, huh? Talk to me about I was in it, right?
remember I
I
told
was
you about that?
what?
Do you remember that time in LA? I never told you about the Porsche, like how it was.
No.
Oh man, it was a blast, dude. That car was so nice. But you don't remember that time we met up in LA for Maggie's wedding,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
911. Yeah, that was like a year before I actually got it. And you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. You're not gonna get the 911. Like, it's cute, great, yeah, maybe. Let me know in 20 years when you fucking finally pull the trigger on that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get a Ferrari next week. But I legit got it a year after. And it didn't take me that long for me to have a guilt trip and not want it anymore.
Wow. That's yeah, not to sidetrack off your deep, topic conversation, but yeah, just that Porsche threw me off. But so you basically weren't living life. You were just kind of inside your head. You were living inside your head.
Yeah,
So
constantly.
yeah. So
Constantly.
my question is, how many people like? I'm just actually like curious, not trying to be funny. How many people do you think are actually going through this like on a day-to-day basis? Like how many like is this more than I think? Is it people I know in the office? Like because I
I
don't
think
have that feeling, right? And I've never experienced that. So that's why I'm just like, to me, it's like this is pretty
this is not a cum stain, by the way. Yeah, no. You're having that feeling like because it kind of looks like it's fucked
yeah.
up. You know what I mean? It's
I'm
like what
guessing it's
happened?
what is
Are you
it?
wearing pants right now? I
Yeah,
promise I'm wearing pants.
if you're listening to this, go to the YouTube. You'll see what he's talking about. The shawarma sauce.
That's what they call it nowadays. So yeah, man, meditation's been helping out a lot. I'll talk about that in a separate
No.
episode.
How,
But
how many people you think are going through this?
dude, if I were to guess based off of all the reactions I've been getting, I want to estimate probably in my best guess, probably around like 10% of people are going through this, and maybe 30% are going through anxiety. Sorry,
Wow.
anxiety.
Did you think you're like the only one going through this at the time? Not the only one.
OCD and BDD.
Yeah.
The only guy, yeah.
Mm.
But I think body dysmorphia is a little bit less common with guys than it is muscle dysphoria. As in, like, a lot of guys either want to become a lot bigger or don't
Uh,
want to become muscle bound because they fear looking like aggressive. So some people really want it and they think like they look small when they actually look jacked. Like a bodybuilder will look in the mirror and think like he's tiny. Or the opposite. Like some people are just completely turned off
yeah.
by
60. It's
muscles.
the study. I looked at the study. Um, body dysmorphia. 60% of people who experience it are women. So it's 60-40.
60/40, yeah. But anyway, I would say that the reaction that I got was very, very surprising to see some of the people that came out and said, like, I also suffer from this and this, or I suffer from this and this, or like this really resonated with me. I got a bunch of different reactions because these last 2 weeks, one video I shared was about anxiety, and the one that I shared a couple of days ago was about OCD. And the next one, I'll probably be focusing on body dysmorphia because people are just like confused. Like, wait a second, you have body dysmorphia about your face? You're on YouTube all the time. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't work like that. It's strange. It's strange how it works.
Yeah, I would recommend you guys go to Adi's YouTube. It's just Adi Janesian.
I changed
So
my name on YouTube now.
the what? One Man Podcast? Armenian Man.
Exposing anxiety with AJ.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you delete all your other videos?
No, but I did put one of the videos as a trailer explaining the
Okay.
move. It's kind of a weird transition happening right now, but I'm
Yeah.
completely okay with it,
I
honestly.
don't know what the hell's going on.
I just don't want to talk about cars anymore, man. Sue me. Do it. So anyway, what I really wanted to talk about tonight was greed.
Yeah.
I want to start off with this quote that gets translated in a few different ways. It's a really just a transliteration of a very, very popular quote from the Bible. And it says, "For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world at the cost of his soul?"
Mm.
What are your initial thoughts on what I just said? How do you interpret what I just said? For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world at the cost of his soul?
Yeah, it's basically, to me, it's the premise, the principle, the definition of greed. And why did you want to talk about this topic?
I want to talk about greed in the sense that is a little bit of greed necessary for success, and what level of greed is acceptable. Um, who is more prone to greed? Is it the poor or is it the wealthy? Who is it
Mm.
actually that is making the sort of greedy decisions in the world? So I want you to sort of unpack this whole "for what shall it profit a man" statement. And I don't know if necessarily that says, this is greed in particular, but what I can tell you how I did, how I interpreted this was the person who has the whole world yet forfeited his soul for it, I think has nothing. Now, how I look at that and how I look at greed is in two different ways. You can be greedy but still retain your soul.
Okay.
Um, Now, to some degree, we're talking about greed, and when it gets really, really evil is when you're lacking integrity, right? Like, you really, really put money as a very important priority, but you'll also put integrity somewhere in there where you won't ruin somebody's life for it, but you will make it extremely difficult for them. As in, if you're, somebody's competitor and you're making it very, very difficult for them to make money, you're being greedy,
Yeah.
but are you making it impossible for them to live? For them to also, like, for example, Amazon and the local convenience store.
Hmm.
Is this a case of deep seated greed? Or is this just capitalism?
So I think it depends how Amazon got there, right? Because I don't think, and this is where I never understood of the, oh, when is it too much, right?
Yeah, what's
Because,
too much?
well, if it's ever too, if we ever limit the too much, that's when innovation stops, right? The
Interesting.
reason the reason why Amazon went from a delivery service to 42-day shipping to next day shipping to have it within hours is because of greed. So without it, do we have all these things? This iPhone, the new 16, what is it, we on the 16, 14?
42.
We're in 2030 right now, and the iPhone, um,
14.
yeah, 14, without the level of greed, which is basically kind of like capitalism. But as far as Amazon, how they got there, I think matters. Uh, if their whole purpose is to take out the little guy, do gray area stuff where they're killing their competition off, not just by growing, by doing illegal things. That's to my opinion is on the level of greed.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has a choice that he can make. He can make the choice to either, at his funeral, to leave behind his integrity or to leave behind his money to his loved ones. Which one do you think that he would leave behind?
Well, how do you leave back integrity?
Let's say, for example, he could only pick one. He has both.
Yeah, integrity, right? Because with
You think
integrity,
he'll forego his money?
I don't. It's a tough question because there are people, I guess, that would give it up.
Like, for example, Bill Gates. Bill Gates wants to donate all of his money after he dies.
Yeah. Well, let's not bring up Bill Gates as a good example. There's a lot of conspiracies behind him, and we don't need the Bill Gates police and the Bill Gates defenders coming at us. So pick someone
You
else.
really get worried about this shit, man.
Because I get the DMs, man. I'm getting hit up.
So integrity plays a large part in how I do business.
Yeah.
If I can't keep my integrity, I won't do business. For example, I have trouble taking orders on a Saturday pickup if it's going to be consumed on Sunday.
Hmm.
I'm not that greedy. I'll tell the customer straight up, I don't want to give you the food if you're going to warm it up on Sunday. Even though I could have just told them, yeah, just heat it up. It's good. And it's a $400 order.
Wow.
At what point would it be greedy for me to tell them, yeah, you could definitely heat it up. It'll taste fine the next day.
I wouldn't think it's greedy. I wouldn't go in the greedy line, but I do see
Why not?
because it's not doing anything shady.
You're not giving full disclosure.
Well, that's, I just personally think it's someone's choice if they want to heat it up the next day. I mean, any person would know it's the quality is going to be a little bit less.
Right. So if you know you got a buyer for a house, at what point is full disclosure not benefiting you? Only when it stops the sale completely?
No, because well, if we're a full disclosure, we got to disclose everything anyway. So
Well,
But
no, I mean, let's not talk about just particular problems with the house. Let's just talk about like, oh, you might not like this area
mm,
because I heard that lately there's just been a lot of gang violence.
okay,
You just
well,
kept something out of the
yeah, we
discussion.
still technically can't talk about that, but let's use similar. Okay, something like that. No, I would, if it's legal for me to say that. No, I would say it for sure because I think but that's an extreme, comparison compared to food, where I think most people know food quality goes down after the next day, and if but I think you did the right thing by telling. I'm not saying you did the wrong thing. I think you did the right thing. I don't think in that instance it's wrong for the person to not say something. So I wouldn't go greed there, but not a high level of integrity person. Greed to me, yeah. What is too much money?
Too much money. I don't think that there's certainly. I don't think that there's necessarily a thing as too much money or wanting to achieve that much money. I think it's so much what you're willing to do to get there,
Mm,
who you're willing to sell off, and what sort of misery you're willing to put yourself and others through to get there. I think that that has to be measured when we're discussing, is this greed? Because I think that a certain level of greed is necessary for any successful person to become that successful.
mhm.
A lot of money was made by doing a lot of dirty shit. Now, when we're talking about generational wealth, it's a different story than just one person, started from zero, worked his way up to extreme wealth. What level of dissatisfaction did he or she feel
Yeah,
doing that? And even though it may not be considered greed, or sorry, even though it might not be considered harmful or evil, could neglecting yourself and selling your soul also be considered deep-seated greed?
yeah. So I was at the vault, and I think this kind of lies in. This is definitely greed. So you remember the company Enron?
Yeah.
So the CEO was one of the speakers at the vault, and he just got out of prison after an 8-year sentence for what he did for Enron.
Yeah.
Okay, um, so that was an interesting speaker about how not to go to jail, was kind of his thing, but also about what he did and why for years he thought he wasn't wrong. So do you know what happened kind of roughly? Or
No.
so the way they're doing their investing and stuff was not illegal, but it was unethical. Okay. So the COO, the guy who spoke, was talking about how he would do all these kind of investment stuff that's the unethical but legal. Okay, because there's nothing in the rules, right? So what happened was he would run it by the lawyers, outside counsels, CPAs, HR. He ran it through every department, and every department said, "Yep, it's not illegal." Okay, blah blah blah. Something happens. He gets. It's not that he even got caught. Something happened, and there was other companies that have done this too. This action he was doing, and they said, "Hey, you did this thing. It's super wrong. We want you to confess and plead guilty to this charge. He's like, well, I didn't do anything. It's legal. And they're like, well, you could take it to court. And if he took it to court, he would have gotten like 20, they could have gotten him for a really long time. But he said for 2 years, he was like, nope, let's take it to court, blah, blah, blah. And I think he ended up pleading guilty because they said they'll implicate his wife, blah, blah, blah. And for 3 years while he was in prison, he still thought he was right for what he did. But his lawyer would be like, hey, like if you went in front of a jury, they're going to see you as guilty because of what you did. He's like, yeah, but there's nothing illegal about it. And then after, like, he would go see a priest or something every week, and they'll talk about it. He finally found out. He's like, it's not that it was legal. He said it was just not the right thing to do. So that's what was, he finally understood he was really, really wrong, because not that it was illegal and everyone said it's okay. You still know it's wrong and you're still doing it. And that's greed. Very interesting talk, man. I wish you were there for that. That was just super. He just talked about it, that whole journey. So he was like an hour. So I'm just trying to condense it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that anybody that is making their money at the cost of other people's financial success or any other form of prosperity is a major piece of shit. I have competition that pops up and goes away and pops up and goes away, and my father always says the same thing. He says everybody's got to eat. So if you're looking at competition as something that needs to be canceled, there is some part of you, some evil part of you that is not only just greedy, is partly evil because you don't want them to also eat.
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody could be so greedy as to only look out for their profitability as opposed to their integrity. I'm not talking about their public
Yeah.
their public opinion. I'm talking about deep down their soul integrity. I think that that is what is greed. Now, with that being said, let's talk about somebody being poor and needing to do whatever it takes to get money. Sort of like, I don't know, committing crimes to put food on the table. You got no other choice. Somebody is doing something to literally support the family. Is this greed? You're still doing piece of shit things,
Yeah.
but you're not doing it in the attempt to secure additional money to create some sort of wealth. You're doing it to live.
So greed is not the action, it's the intent and the benefit from the action.
Right. Is it the same level of wrong? Is it the same level of piece of shit? Could you call that criminal greedy? Or would you just call him a criminal? As in, if one person was doing one crime, or two people were doing a crime, one of them was doing it for long-term wealth and one of them was doing it to literally continue living, is one not actually greedy?
Yeah, the other one wouldn't be greedy. Still a criminal, but
Because he has no other choice.
yeah. I mean, there is always a choice, but I get what you're. I mean, we're not going to sit here and
Options are sort of limited here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when we're discussing greed, then I guess what are the limits in the business setting? How much could you possibly do without, I guess, seeming like an evil, miserable piece of shit. How should you be dealing with competition? How should you be disclosing um, conflicts of interest? To what degree are you allowed to do these things? Like only if it doesn't put the customer in harm? To what level of harm? That they completely pissed away their money, or it's up for interpretation, or you should only be doing things to 100% benefit the customer.
I,
There's plenty of people that sell processed foods
mm-hmm.
that don't necessarily directly impact them, but could somewhat impact them. Does this mean that, the processed food industry is all a bunch of greedy pieces of shit, or are they trying to create a product that's cheap enough that doesn't cause necessarily as bad of an adverse effect until it's overconsumed?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't overconsume, I don't think, organic broccoli.
No.
There's just no such thing. But you can overconsume peanut
So
butter.
let's say that's an interesting topic because I always thought that they were greedy, the food process, companies. Let's say what's a big food process type food?
Cereal. Let's
Cereal.
talk
Okay.
about,
So the
I don't
cereal
know.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, except that there's one we get from Sprouts, the grocery store. It's like four ingredients, like real ingredients. It's like $12 for like a little box of cereal.
Here we go with this shit. I think the best example of what you're talking about is Trader Joe's. They have
Yeah.
one where it's literally, I think, like 5 or 6 ingredients and it doesn't cost that much money. It's like they're really trying not to be greedy, Like we're trying
Okay.
our best
Yeah.
to give you
So
guys some good shit for a low
yeah.
price. But then you go to Whole Foods and what you just said is
Yeah.
that.
So that person, that food process company, the cereal company, are they wrong? Are they greedy? Or are they like, hey, we're putting out a product for people who can't afford the higher end stuff, and it's not our responsibility or it's not our job that or our fault that you're consuming it every day.
So are they actually a piece of shit for offering you a really, really affordable thing that does the job, but they didn't actually disclose, hey, if you have a couple servings of this every single day, you might be at risk for
Yeah.
diabetes and a
But
bunch of other shit.
are they putting these sugars in that they know are addictive to keep them every now? If they're doing that, obviously, which they could be, um, don't yeah, their greed, that's wrong. But if they don't know, or no, they know, but they're like, hey, there's no other way, and this is, we're still not condoning using this every day, which I doubt, but I think it's greed.
But you don't think it's greed because they're doing it at the price point that they're doing it at.
Yeah, it's not about the price point.
The I'll look at some of these companies that are doing what they're doing and I'll be like, listen, these guys are selling a staple product. I get it. This could be harmful to somebody's health, but legit, they're selling something that unless you eat, excess amounts of, it's probably not going to kill you, but it's probably not that safe
Yeah.
to, to just leave at whim for somebody to decide, they can have this much or whatever. But then there's some other stuff that I constantly see. For example, I'll give you a good one. Really, really low grade beef that goes into these frozen hamburger patties.
Yeah.
The frozen stuff that they sell for like barbecues and stuff like that, that people always, I don't know why they would even think about buying it. And these guys are literally selling frozen shit. I'm like, how could you package this and sell it?
Mm.
So I'm just all over the place. When it comes to greed, I can't seem to wrap my head around what's right and what's wrong because they all get sold in the same stores. And sometimes I look at the labels and I'm like, this should be illegal. But I'm
Yeah.
like, should it? They're selling the box for $10. Why should it be illegal? So you tell me, at what point should it be? Are we just not to decide how capitalism, how greedy somebody actually could be until,
Well, yeah,
it
because
actually puts somebody else at risk?
no one's forcing people to buy this stuff, right?
No, absolutely not. But at the same time, nobody's educated. So is it
Mm.
is it the company that's responsible, or is our government responsible for the miseducation
Well, at least
and the dysregulation?
one of them should be. The fact that neither are, is a joke, but it should probably be the company, and then if not, the government should step up. But they're not the brightest minds of out there.
So
And if any politicians, people in government are listening, you could challenge me on that. You could definitely DM me on that one because I feel pretty confident with that comment.
So talk to me a little bit more about somebody like you, Shant, who's always who sets his goals, he sets his sights on, creating wealth.
Mm-hmm.
To what degree, to what point do you think that you're in the clear, or to what point are you being greedy? Like, oh no, I can't spend this much time at home because I need to work. Yet the reason why you're doing it is to create a really, really good life for your kids. Remember,
Yeah.
we had this discussion in the previous
Yeah.
episode. It's like, all right, like if you're trying to create a better life for your kids, spend some fucking time with your kids.
Yeah.
At which point is your creating wealth really just a mask for your greed?
I think it depends, right? Because I had this talk with my coach actually, because I was like, is it, are you keep going for that next thing of always going like, oh, well, no, let me keep going, then I'll be happy. Um, that's when I think you're chasing the wrong thing. If you're going just to like for happiness, because if you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy when you get it, right? You'll just have more fun. You still won't be happy. For me, because I had this talk and I was like, I don't think, and I'm not saying I'm going to be a billionaire, but why would I stop? Because Betty's like, oh, like if we win the lotto and win $100 million, would you stop? And I said no. She's like, wow, I was like, I want to see if I can make it into a billion. And she's like,
Why?
a couple of reasons. And she said that. She's like, why? She's like, I'd be good. Like, I'm done.
I'd be good with like 20 million, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Because, and I think you'd be on my page actually.
Well, I mean, talk to me. Why would you want to go for a billion? I mean, that's very ambitious, but it's like, for what?
to see how far I could go, right? Can I keep growing and expanding, right? Because the more I expand, the more people I could bless, right? Because you could bless a lot of people at 100 million, but maybe God put me or you or someone else on this planet to go to keep going. And maybe it's selfish if I stop when I'm supposed to go further and help more people, right? Because I know, if you go, you have 20 mil, 100 mil, you're going to be looking to do the more right thing. So that's why I feel like it's selfish to not keep going.
How would you help people? That sounds like not greedy at all. The reason why why you would pursue going from 100 million to a billion, but like, how would your going to a billion help people? Are you talking about just creating more jobs for people? Like
Yeah,
your
it's
company hires more people, you have more commission opportunities for employees. Like,
yeah, that's one, right? The more Amazon, Tesla, the more they grow, the more jobs there are, right? Unless they go robotics and but whatever. It's also my family and the generations it'll help my family, our family, right?
mhm.
Um, how much it'll help you, how much it'll help, you know, our cousins, our generations to come, and then how much would it impact of an impact can I do to Armenia at that point?
See, that's the one that I was gonna get to. Besides my family, like I think my family would be pretty cool with 100 million as opposed to a billion. I think that billion is also hiding a lot of honestly, it's hiding a lot of undisclosed greed. Um,
I don't know about that, but
I don't know, bro. I think you're kind of a greedy piece. I'm kidding. So anyway, what I'm talking about right now is the Armenia thing. I think that that's a little bit more understandable than helping multiple generations. I feel like one generation will piss away all your money in a heartbeat. But if you were to put the money into the right hands, which is I think is pretty much non-existent in Armenia, but if you were to put it in the right hands, I think that that would help out a lot more people, and I think that would
yeah,
justify your wanting to go
and
from 100.
it's not about just the money, right? Because you could invest in schools, build stuff for the kids. That's where all the money would go. The billion wouldn't go to the government and stuff like that because we know what's going to happen with that, right? Um, where it would impact is my influence, because when you have that kind of money, you have influence. Could I influence people of power to help Armenia, right? In bigger ways than just financially, right? So things like that, like, um, you know, the Iran, what's going on right now, right? I know we haven't talked about it. And, they shut down the internet. Elon Musk brings over the Starlink to give people free Wi-Fi, right? So what if Armenia's in a war? I'm a billionaire. I have influence. I know Elon Musk. Hey, Elon, send over the Starlink.
He's doing that in Iran too.
Yeah, he's doing that in Iran, did in Ukraine.
He took it away in Ukraine too.
Yeah, yeah.
He wasn't too happy with one of them. Apparently, he just shut down the internet that he gave for everybody. Fuck
So
this guy.
sick. So sick. Um,
So that I can get down with. That point I can definitely get down with is using your money for a lot of good, donating your money, getting so rich that you're able to help a lot of people.
so does that make sense on why 100 mil is not enough, or whatever amount you thought?
So you're saying that to some degree your greed, no, but not the greed, but your
Yeah.
ambition to wanting to get more money, your ambition for wanting to achieve more wealth, not is wouldn't be so much for you to benefit from, but for everything that you care about to benefit from.
Yeah, and I'll still benefit because just personally, I always want to see how far I could go. But second, I don't think it's even um ambition. I think it's the responsibility, right? For for especially the Armenians out there who know what I'm talking about. Okay. It's if you have that chance, it's our responsibility to help in any way possible. Right now, we could help send 1,000 here, 1,000 there. Okay, that doesn't do anything. We know where that money's going.
Again, I just want to reiterate, I think that some level of greed is very important. I don't think that the greed should be should be seated in harming other people to get to your wealth. I also think that your 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 greed, as long as it isn't harming anybody else, I think is to a certain degree ethical. No matter what sort of religion or
Mhm.
particular opinion may state about it, I think that to some degree, some level of greed is certainly ethical. I just don't see harming or putting other people at harm as being something that I could personally live with. Now, there's plenty of that happening. There's plenty of that going around. I just don't. I don't respect it.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't personally buy products or anything like that. That is or even want to support a company that makes a product that is potentially harming people without disclosing it. As in, I'm perfectly okay with Philip Morris selling cigarettes as long as they tell people this could possibly kill you.
So what about what they say like Nike and like iPhones are made from slave labor?
Slave labor. I mean, have they proven that? Have they shown that?
It's been yeah, yeah,
And all these people have iPhones?
yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's terrible, but it's hard to it's when you don't see it, you kind of brush it under the rug, unfortunately.
Are they employing people that would have been getting paid the same somewhere else
No, I think they're not paying them.
at all?
Yeah.
No, that's not something I can get down with.
I stopped buying Nike.
I mean, I thought that they stopped doing that shit a while ago. Like, I
Um,
thought that this was just like widely publicized and they stopped doing it because honestly, if that's the case, if they're still doing it after all this time, um, this is something that I will not like. I can't personally tolerate something like.
yeah. No, 100% agree. So it's like there's always something you could find on something. I think most large corporations now, because this is why I think most large corporations have gotten greedy. It's I don't think it's the founder owner got greedy. What happens is when these companies get big, right? They need to borrow money, they need a board, they need CEOs, and the owner, the founder of the company has less and less share. CEOs come in, these founders step out, and then what happens? CEOs now don't care about the founder; they care about profits to save their job. So that's where I think it become personally when these corporations get unethical, it's when people outside of the founder take over.
This is very, very interesting. Do you think that when there is a board and a large group overseeing a company, that that responsibility, ethical responsibility, doesn't get taken? Ethical accountability doesn't get taken because there's so many people to absorb the shadiness
Yeah,
that's taking place.
100%.
Do you find it hard to trust the company where you don't know who the owner is?
Yeah.
For example, Elon Musk's company is trustable because he's the person standing behind his company.
Yes and no, because he still doesn't have all the say anymore. So
Okay, fair enough.
that's a big part of it. Because it's impossible, I think. to get to that level when a board takes over where it's not, they care more about the numbers at that point and growing their stock portfolios because they're not connected to it. Your business, you're there, it's your baby. You're not going to go unethically because that's your baby. Now, are there some businesses that do? Yeah, I'm sure there are that do the unethical, but for the most part, I think most business owners, entrepreneurs are starting out with the right reasons.
And it's only a certain amount of time that'll tell whether or not they'll get greedy or not. For example, last thing, I know we're
Yeah.
kind of getting sidetracked and probably off time, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs that start up restaurants and do sort of similar businesses that eventually they find an investor and they get a little bit bigger. They have like a few different chains, and the quality goes to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole vision behind the business that gets so diluted down that they may not be doing necessarily something wrong, as in they're still selling a decent product, but that product is nowhere close to what it looked like in the very beginning of what they started doing. And their public opinion is that they got greedy.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I think, that movie that you told me about McDonald's. It's like, listen, the guy wasn't doing anything wrong, but he just wasn't upholding the founders'
Yeah.
original quality. That's why they were getting so upset.
Did you
It's like
watch
you're
that?
putting
You
our
watched that movie?
yeah. It's like, dude, you're putting our integrity at stake. They're selling
Yeah.
freaking they're selling tacos at this McDonald's in New Mexico. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know? Like this shouldn't be happening. So that one I have a problem with. It's like you're not doing something that's harming somebody, but it's just an outward greedy appearance. You gave up your reputation all because you wanted to make a chain of 5 stores or 10 stores. It's like, why? For more money or to create a name for yourself as, what the best play? It's like you could only have one. Which one would you choose?
Yeah.
Would you leave behind the integrity or leave behind the money? If you can drop of a hat say I'll leave behind the money, I think you got to do some priority searching. And
I
I think
agree,
that's what
man.
separates good and bad businessmen.
I 100% agree, man. Yeah, it's interesting. Greed could be so many different ways you could go about it. Definitely interested to hear what the Instagram people say when I get.
Definitely interested to hear whether or not you noticed that my mustache was missing today.
Oh, oh, you got rid of the little Hitler
By
look.
accident. By accident. It'll be
Nice.
back soon.
So you're sticking to it.
Bro, I fucked up trimming my face. And this part of my mustache came out a lot lighter than this part
Yeah.
when I was trimming down. It just looked weird. So
How have you seen uh the ladies react to the mustache?
some some actually I think got turned on by it. Like maybe they had like an uncle or something that like the cool one. They grew up around. And some were just creeped out so badly. They looked at me and they're just like, ugh. I caught some girl looking at me one time, and she wasn't looking at me like checking me out. She was looking at me like, is this guy fucking serious? It was at Trader Joe's too. She just looks at me like, you fucking pedophile. I'm like, I didn't even do anything. I don't, I didn't even make eye contact with anybody's kid. The fuck?
So you looked at the little kids' carts, shopping carts. It's like,
I'm
what?
like, I didn't. I just grabbed 5 gallons of milk. What the fuck's your problem?
Yeah, that's good, man. Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Past
Well,
my
I appreciate
bedtime.
it.
I have the mic now in my face. Good night, Sean.
Good night, everyone.